And maybe he just liked the look of them. Yeah. Maybe just like, not all of them. They needed to, fix their... That wasn't perfect. But once they fixed that, he was like, yeah, I love that. Hey folks, welcome to Joel Reads Bible. I'm Joel and I read Bible so that you don't have to. And we're just starting Deuteronomy. And we're in chapter 4. And so far, I haven't hated it. And I know a lot of people are going like, no, we want you to hate. We want you to hate. We're so obsessed with you hating this book. And it's like, look, if it's going to be fun, if there's going to be parts of the Bible that move at a pretty decent pace and give you just little nuggets of contradiction and nonsense, I'm going to enjoy it, okay? I'm going to enjoy it. If I can read it and comprehend it and there's story, I'm sorry. But compared to this is how you kill this is why you kill that, this is when you kill this, it's heaven. It's pure bliss. One thing that I have learned just from talking to Christians and getting comments on my videos is that I haven't been reading Bible correctly. I've been getting it wrong. I've been reading without the Holy Spirit, I guess. I've been reading without God knowing that I want him to reveal himself through his word. And the reason for that, in my defense, is because I don't believe he exists. I don't see any good reason to believe God is real, but that's going to, put a damper on him coming and revealing the truth behind the word. So I was told by Christians that I should pray, even if I don't mean it, before reading the Bible, and then God will be able to come in, because you have to give him permission, and he'll reveal what he's really saying through his word. So I thought we would try it this episode, and if it works, that's great. This might actually be the change of Joel Reads Bible from, this stuff doesn't make any sense, it's kind of stupid, it seems like men wrote it, to God wrote this beautiful, divinely inspired, heavenly work of, gloriful fiction. Fact, that kind of thing. See, I'm still saying fiction. So we're going to say a quick little prayer, and then we'll get into Deuteronomy chapter. See, I might be able to pronounce it better once I say the prayer. So we'll do a quick prayer, and then we'll get right into it. Dear Heavenly Father, Jesus, and also the Father, and then also the Holy Spirit, bless the reading of your word tonight, as I read and try to make sense of what seems to be very obviously stuff that was written by human men, and specifically a priest class who is trying to legitimize themselves and validate themselves so that the people, when this was being written, which was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years after it was supposedly happened, which I don't believe any of it happened. I lost track of what I was saying, dear Lord, but please be with me while I read this and reveal yourself through the word, and maybe make it obvious what you're trying to say with it, because currently it's been a little bit bamboozling and you seem like quite a bit of a monster who haphazardly kills people for no good reason and is very quick to anger and not loving at all. So if you'd like to kind of fix my brain chemistry so that it seems like you're not that while I read the rest of the Bible, that would be fantastic, or at least this chapter. In Jesus' probably fictional name, amen. All right, so that's probably going to work. Let's get right into it. Deuteronomy chapter 4. By the way, this is Moses still telling the story of them in the Exodus and Numbers and stuff like that. Now, Israel, listen to the statutes and to the ordinances which I teach you, to do them, that you may live and go in and possess the land which Yahweh, the God of your fathers, gives you. You shall not add to the word which I command you, neither shall you take away from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahweh your God, which I command you. It's interesting that this verse is in Deuteronomy 4, because We're used to pointing out that this is said something similar in Revelations, where it says, don't add or take away one word from this book. And then people go, I think that maybe it just means Revelation or Revelations. No one knows what that book's called. But either way, they think it may just be for that one book. But actually, what we're learning here now is that you shall not add to the word which I command you, which I think might be the laws, the commands, the decrees. I don't know what is a law and what's a command and what's a decree, or if it's all like his law or whatever. But the main thing is don't add from it or take away. We're not there yet, so I don't want to make any crazy comments, but I feel like Jesus may have added to it and also taken away at times. So I don't know what God is intending with this. He might just mean like, for now, until we get to the New Testament, for this short amount of time, then don't change anything. But after that, like, all bets are off. That might be what he means. It's not like he's protecting like his word or his ideas. He's not serious about them. Your eyes have seen what Yahweh did because of Baal Peor. For Yahweh, your God, has destroyed all the men who followed Baal Peor from among you. But you who are faithful to Yahweh, your God, are all alive today. Behold, I have taught you statutes and ordinances, even as Yahweh my God commanded me, that you should do so in the middle of the land where you go in to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples, who shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what great nation is there that has a God so near to them as Yahweh our God is whenever we call on him? What great nation is there that has statutes and ordinances so righteous as all this law of which I set before you today? That's great. He's bragging. He's just going like, we're the best and we have the best God. Like, this is what they've been doing. And of course, like, the people are going to be like, yeah, we're the best. We have the best God. Like, they're going to love that. That's how you like get people all jazzed up. But it's funny to ask that question, like, what great nation has a God so near them like Yahweh? He shows up whenever we call him. I bet you the people were like, yeah, I wish he didn't. I wish he kind of left us to our own devices, because like, we called on him to give us water and he brought snakes to bite us and kill us, and then made us make a graven image so that if we like looked upon the snake, we would be healed, and then eventually gave us water. Like, a God that maybe was like at a distance, who heard like, what, do they need water? Yeah, here's some water. You know, so they're not really like right there going like, oh, you want water? I'm going to torture you, you know? Like, you want somebody that's a little bit more aloof. You don't want a micromanager. You know what I mean? You don't want somebody that's that hands-on. I think it'd be better to have that kind of God that's just a little distant, you know, looks at the budget. All right, they need, you know, a new water filter. All right, I'll sign off on that. But we've got Yahweh, who's just too hands-on, annoyingly so, and dangerously so. But then we have this second part, which is, what great nation is there that has statute and ordinances so righteous as all this law which I set before you today? I'm not a scholar of the times of the ancient Near Eastern times, but I have it on fairly good authority that the statutes and ordinances and laws of Yahweh were not the most righteous. Like, they weren't the best for all people. For instance, we always talk about slavery. So these slavery laws had some nice improvements that were better than other places. The Hebrew people, we're going to see later, I think, even in this book, they would have to give them something when they left after the 7 years or 6 years of service. But there were other law codes. I think the Hammurabi law code, they only had to serve for 3 years. So which one's more righteous? Which one's more righteous? Yahweh's or the... So it's hard to say, but I bet you if we went head to head, Yahweh wouldn't always come out as more righteous. Now, if you take the word righteous to mean whatever God says is good, then you can't lose. Like if you have this word as your own word, it's like saying, which law code is more schkirschflifgelisk? It's like, well, obviously the one that made up the word schkirschflifgelisk, because like no one else has defined that word. So if we're going to say righteous means whatever God says, then you're right. But if righteous means kindest or causes the least amount of harm or most clever or least useless, something like that, I don't know that this law code is going to win. And I would say that post this time, tons of law codes. I think every single law code is probably more righteous. Like all the great nations now probably have laws that are more righteous than these law codes. Which you might say, of course, that was the time. It was the law codes of the time. You can't judge it based on today. You could though, not always, but if and only if God is timeless and immutable. Then you would think that his law code and his righteousness would transcend the time in which he gave them. To answer your question very directly, Moses, what great nation is there that has laws so righteous? Many of them. Only be careful and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes saw, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life, but make them known to your children and your children's children. The day that you stood before Yahweh your God in Horeb, when Yahweh said to me, assemble the people to me, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they live on the earth, and that they may teach their children. You came near and stood under the mountain. The mountain burned with fire to the heart of the sky with darkness, cloud, and thick darkness. The mountain burned with fire to the heart of the sky with darkness, cloud, and thick darkness. That's a lot of darkness. It had the normal darkness, and then it had the cloud, and then it had the thick darkness. That was a lot of darkness, very scary darkness. And fire, which is weird because that's going to be light. But ignore that because there was also the darkness and then the thick darkness, Yahweh spoke to you out of the middle of the fire. You heard the voice of the words, but you saw no form. You only heard the voice. He declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even the 10 Commandments. He wrote them on 2 stone tablets. I love that he's like really driving home. He's like, you didn't see him, right, guys? Like nobody saw him, right? Nobody's saw him. I didn't bring like 70 elders up with Joshua to like sit there and eat something with him as he stood on a emerald square. No, he didn't. Nobody saw him, right? Are we all confirming that no one saw him? They're like, some people saw him. No, nobody sees him and lives. It's not a contradiction. Nobody sees him. Most of them didn't see him. I mean, that's part of the story. But by the way, in the previous chapter, we read 3 chapters of catching up. We're going back in time again. Like we're back in Horeb. Like we've already like traveled out in the other chapters, I think, and now we've gone back to Horeb. This is like horrible. It is horrible though, because it's like constantly like moving. And then even here, it's like he did the 10 Commandments. He wrote them on this stone tablets. That happened twice, like what? This is just a silly recap. Let's just keep going. Yahweh commanded me at the time to teach you statutes and ordinances that you might do them in the land where you go over to possess it. I thought of that at the time. I said that, I think in like Leviticus, because they were talking about like property laws and stuff. And I'm like, why would this be necessary? This is like something that they don't have access to. They're wandering in a desert. They're not even wandering yet. They're still at the base of Mount Horeb. But he's saying he gave the laws so that like eventually you could follow them. Not right now. We got to do the wandering. Most of you are going to die. All of you are going to die. 2 million people are going to die. And then we're going to wander around. And then once we are done with that, then we're going to start doing these laws. This is another way that we can really like nail down this idea that God gave slavery laws or any of these kinds of laws, but slavery is the important one, to people who were doing slavery. These people were already doing slavery, and God was just regulating slavery. But he wasn't. What he was doing was he was saying, in 40 years, when you're finally out of the wilderness, I want you to do slavery. This is how you're going to do slavery. That's not regulating something that's already happening. That is creating a culture kind of from scratch, right? With a bunch of people who used to be slaves and going like, these are my best case scenarios. And slavery is one of those things. And we get that here. I'm giving you laws that you're going to do when you get to the land in 40 years. And it's not even going to be you. This is the wild thing. It's not even going to be you, the people at the base of the Mount Horeb. This is going to be a whole new generation of under 40s, because I'm going to kill all of you because you're not allowed to go into that land. So there's no world where there's a bunch of hard-hearted people who can't be reasoned with, who have to do slavery because they're already doing slavery and God is regulating it. That's just not in the narrative. These are a bunch of brand new babies, who are being raised, and they will eventually be taught to keep slaves and to enslave foreigners because that's God's best idea. So let's not mix that up, folks. Let's make sure we read the Bible and so we know what it's actually saying. Be very careful, for you saw no kind of form on the day that Yahweh spoke to you in Horeb out of the middle of the fire, lest you corrupt yourselves and make yourselves a carved image in any form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any animal, even a snake that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the sky, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that's in the water under the earth. And lest you lift up your eyes to the sky, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the army of the sky, you are drawn away and worship them and serve them, which Yahweh your God has allotted to all the peoples under the whole sky. This is a reiteration of the Ten Commandments, and he's doing the graven images one. But it feels like there's like this added thing here. Don't worship the sun and the moon and the stars either. I think that's what's kind of being said here. He's adding... It's constantly fixing them and changing them a little bit. So obviously don't make any graven images except for the snake, fish, which live in the water under the earth. Interesting detail. He only doesn't want graven images of fish that live under the earth in water, not the ones that are just like in the normal water. But Yahweh has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace, out of Egypt, to be with him, a people of inheritance, as it is today. Furthermore, Yahweh was angry with me for your sakes, and swore that I should not go over the Jordan, and that I should not go to that good land, which Yahweh your God gives you for an inheritance. But I must die in this land. I must not go over to the Jordan. But you shall go over. You shall go over and possess that good land. Be careful, lest you forget the covenant of Yahweh your God, which he made with you, and make yourselves a carved image in the form of anything which Yahweh your God has forbidden you. Moses is kind of doing a bit of a pity party. Well, I'm not allowed to go. You guys are allowed. That's all fine and good for you, but I'm not allowed. So don't screw it up, guys. Don't screw it up by making some sort of graven image, okay? You're so lucky. You're so lucky that you get to go. Don't mess it up. God will make it so you can't go or he'll kill you or something. He's scary. So don't screw it up. It's your inheritance. See, he gave it to you for inheritance. They're always putting on a brave face. See, it's a really nice inheritance. So don't screw it up. He'll get you. He'll get you. For Yahweh your God is a devouring fire, a jealous God. When you father children and children's children, and you have been long in the land, and then corrupt yourselves and make carved image in the form of anything, and do that which is evil in Yahweh's your God's sight, to provoke him to anger, I call heaven and earth to witness against you today, that you will soon utterly perish from off the land which you go over the Jordan to possess it. You will not prolong your days in it, but will utterly be destroyed. So obviously what's happening here in real life, I mean, I shouldn't say obviously, but what I understand this to be, obviously, I keep saying obviously because it seems so obvious to me. But the Jewish people are leaving Babylon. This is the Babylonian exile, that they're compiling all these old stories and this kind of thing, and creating this document which is going to really support their culture. And it's the laws that they want to, I would say, probably somewhat adhere to, and also just this theocracy that they're putting together. And so, yeah, there's a lot of this threatening stuff. Like, you gotta follow the rules, guys. We gotta keep in line. And you're going to inherit the land. You're going to have a place to live. This is going to be your home. You can have children and children's children. There will be many children. We'll be very successful, as we were once upon a time. But don't screw this up. Like, don't worship other gods. We must worship our best God, because we need you all under the same banner, united under this theocracy of Yahweh. So it's a system of control and unity for these people. And maybe it was worthwhile for them at the time. Maybe this was a way that they could do that. There may have been a better way, but who knows how that would have worked. Don't really have a lot in the way of like understanding what it was like back then. But this was the move that they made in order to support their culture and to try to make some sort of a society. If we're going to like take the veil off, you know what I mean? Yahweh will scatter you among the peoples, and you will be left few in number among the nations, where Yahweh will lead you away. There you will serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell, but from there you will seek Yahweh your God, and you will find him when you search after him with all your heart and with all your soul. When you are in oppression and all these things have come on you, in the latter days you shall return to Yahweh your God and listen to his voice. For Yahweh your God is a merciful God. He will not fail you nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which he swore to them. So this really does speak very loudly to what I was just saying about the Babylonian exile. It seems like they probably did feel this, like if you break the rules, you're going to get into this scrape, and it's not going to be good for you. You're going to be in these other places and be working really hard and got to serve all these other gods. But one day, and that's, then, when this is being compiled, you're going to return home. We get to go home now, and then you're going to return to Yahweh. So it's kind of like saying, this is what we're doing, guys. We're returning to Yahweh. We did all this bad stuff. We were hard-hearted. We asked for quail. We asked for water. We were real jackasses. But now we're going to go back and we're going to be good this time. And we're going to follow Yahweh this time, okay? It's all story. But it feels like, that's why that happened. We're not going to let that happen again, because we'll be unified and we'll be able to make it through this time. You know what? Maybe my prayer worked, because I feel like I'm doing a good job just like seeing what this text really is about and what's really happening here. And it says here that, and you will find him when you search after him with all your heart and with all your soul. And I did pray, like I was kind of searching with my heart and soul. I kind of asked, and maybe the magic of asking just brought us to this place of realization that this was written by people who had been oppressed and were trying to unify their culture through this theocracy. Thank you, nothing. Thank you, nothing, for bestowing that knowledge. For ask now of the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that God created man on earth, and from the one end of the sky to the other, whether there has been anything as great as this thing is, or has been heard like it. What thing, God? Did a people ever hear the voice of God speaking out of the middle of fire as you have heard and live? Or has God tried to go and take a nation for himself from among other nations by trials, by signs, by wonders, by war, by a mighty hand, or by an outstretched arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes? That's just it. This is what's so fantastic. It's just like reading these things like solidifies what's going on here. And it's like so important. And I wish that Christians would just like take a second and go, what is being said? They're just promoting the God character, the God concept, to celebrate themselves and to go, we have a guy on our team now. We've got a hero. We've got a big, strong superhero, supernatural being, actually the creator of everything. And no one has any God like this on their team. Like, look at all the things that he's done. He actually spoke to us out of the middle of fire and we lived. He loves us that much. Took nations and he, sent these plagues and he, sent great terrors and, did all the stuff that he did in Egypt, wonders, signs, his mighty hand, outstretched arm, all those things. And so that's going to make these people feel like $1 million. They're his guy. He's amazing. But that's why he did those things. He did those things to prove a point. Like in the narrative, right? Like he did those things to say like, Israel, I'm crazy about you. You guys are great. I want you guys to feel secure and feel like I am on your team and I'm there for you. Which is wild because all the times that he kills them is just doesn't make any sense. It's like, that's very counterintuitive, God. You're really sending mixed signals. But if we ignore all that, we just focus on this part where he did all the killing of other people for us, we can really get behind that. That's really amazing. This is incredible. If you zoom out and you try to have the Christian perspective where you're like, God is love and he loves everyone. He's not just the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He is, but he's also the God of the Gentiles. And he is not just going to go around and kill everyone. He's merciful and all the rest of it. It stops making sense. If he did it for signs and wonders for the one people that he loves, yeah, makes perfect sense. But if he loves everyone, like he loved the Egyptians and the Canaanites and the Moabites and all of them, I think we have a failure now. And I think it's because this text obviously isn't designed or written to carry the theological weight that Christianity puts on it, which I've been saying lately. It's not made for that, right? It can't support that. It's like a very narrow sort of tale for a particular people, right? This myth isn't for everyone. And that's why it's very hard to reconcile this type of thing and then the new Christian sort of perspective. It was shown to you so that you might know that Yahweh is God. There is no one else beside him. Out of heaven he made you to hear his voice, that he might instruct you. On earth he made you see his great fire, and you heard his words out of the middle of the fire. We know he talks out of the middle of fire. You don't have to keep saying it. Because he loved your fathers. Therefore, he chose their offspring after them and brought you out with his presence, with his great power out of Egypt, to drive out nations from before you, greater and mightier than you, to bring you in and to give you their land for an inheritance as it is today. Know therefore today and take it to heart that Yahweh himself is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. There's no one else. There's no one else. So we've gone to monotheism. I feel like Deuteronomy switches to monotheism. I think this whole chapter, we've had hints of monotheism. And we got that earlier on when he's like, those other gods were just made out of stone and wood and stuff like that, saying that they're not actual gods. I'm pretty confident that it might even, I don't know if it was in this book or in like Numbers, where we were still speaking of the Egyptian gods as if we're judging them like they're real gods. So I don't know when the switch happens, but we'll keep an eye open, because it could just be that this is where it seems monotheistic, but then we're going to see other like henotheistic, mentions until we get into the New Testament, which I think is like more overtly, I should say, monotheistic. It's also interesting that here it says that he loves the Hebrew people because he loved their fathers, who I assume is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I don't know why he loved their fathers. There's going to be different theologies on this, or I should say apologetics. They're always apologetics. To say theology, it just makes it sound better than it is. They're always apologetics. And the apologetics are something along the lines of like, God can use anyone. So yeah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were all flawed, right? They were all horribly flawed people, but God could still use them, and that shows how merciful God is and all the rest of it. But here it seems to be like they were kind of special because God loved them. Why did he love them over the Baal Peors? Why did he love Abraham and Isaac and Jacob more? Abraham pimped his wife, lied. Jacob deceived his father. Isaac also pimped his wife. They were just like questionable characters, but God's like, I love these guys. It's like, feels arbitrary. It feels like an arbitrary acceptance of certain people and then a rejection of other people. But maybe he just liked the look of them. Maybe he just like, not all of them. They needed to, fix their, that wasn't perfect. But once they fixed that, he was like, yeah, I love that. Also here in verse 38, he's like, I drove out nations before you that were greater and mightier than you. Did you have to say that? But they painted that picture, right? They're like, look at the giants. Everyone else is a giant. They're all greater and mightier. But it also seems like a bit of an insult, Those nations, they're so much better than you. You needed me. You couldn't do it by yourself, nerd. You shall keep his statutes and his commandments, which I command you today, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which Yahweh, your God, gives you for all time. That's a threat. I don't even think that's a veiled threat anymore. That's like just an on-the-nose threat. You shall keep his statutes and his commandments so that it may go well with you and with your children. Children obey your parents so that it may go well with you and they may have a long life or whatever. Because like later on we learn, if you don't, they'll kill you. And that's the same thing here, is just like, do it or I'm going to kill you. Read Leviticus 26. Yeah, keep the commands or else your eyes are going to shrivel out of their sockets and I'm going to have you eating your children. Then Moses set apart 3 cities beyond the Jordan toward the sunrise, that the manslayer might flee there. Who kills his neighbor unintentionally and didn't hate him in the time past, and that fleeing to one of these cities, he might live. Beza in the wilderness, in the main country, for the Reubenites, and Raymond in Gilead, for the Gadites, and Golan and Bashan, for the Manassites. This is such a main piece to this, which it doesn't seem like it should get that much attention. Like, how many people are unintentionally killing somebody and they need to flee to a city? Like, why is this being mentioned so often? We had the law, but like, I haven't seen any other laws about bulls that gore someone. But I keep on seeing like full chapter about the city that someone who accidentally kills their neighbor must flee to. And now this mention again. It's so weird. So weird that some things are like mentioned one time and then other things it's like, I got to make sure that you guys know about this, because a lot of people are going to accidentally kill other people. But if you hated him before, don't tell anyone so you can kill him by accident. This is the law which Moses set before the children of Israel. These are the testimonies and the statutes and the ordinances which Moses spoke to the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt, beyond the Jordan, in the valley opposite Beth Peor, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon, whom Moses and the children of Israel struck when they came up out of Egypt. They took possession of his land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, the 2 kings of the Amorites, who were beyond the Jordan towards the sunrise, from Meror, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, even to Mount Sion, also called Hermon, and all the Arabah beyond the Jordan eastward, even to the sea of the Arabah under the slopes of Pisgah. I don't know if like the next chapter is going to be the beginning of like recounting the law. I know that a lot of Deuteronomy is the law. One thing that I am curious about is if this is the law of Moses or the law of Yahweh through Moses. I know that everything leading up to this, like all the books prior, were God speaking directly to Moses. And I think that when there's these other laws, it's assumed that that's what's going on. I mean, I would always assume that. And I always like to point back to, I think it's Exodus 19, where God's like, hey, Moses, I'm going to do this big fanfare, this big show, so that everyone trusts you explicitly. So you're the main guy that we all trust. That kind of puts Moses in a position that like whatever he says is basically from the mouth of God as well. Don't question his authority. And we saw a chapter of that as well in Numbers. So as we move forward in Deuteronomy, if you want to say that these were Moses' laws, but God wasn't really involved, God still screwed up because he allowed Moses to give these laws. But I think it probably makes more sense that, like, as we're recounting this story, that God gave those laws through Moses. But we'll see if it says that explicitly, or if it's something that you'd have to guess, or if we can just say Moses came up with them. And then we don't have to worry so much that, like, God is the horrible, horrible being that came up with some of these horrific things that we're going to be reading in this book. But anyway, that's the chapter. I feel like it had a lot in it, but I don't feel like God revealed himself in any meaningful way. I don't know if the prayer worked, but what did I love about this chapter? What did I love about it? I think I loved how clearly you can understand what is being said and what's going on. The children of Israel being motivated and being told that their God's the best and they should feel the best about him. And, you know, if you're a little tribe, if you're a bunch of people who have just left captivity and you're scared, and you got to go into the world, and there's like not that many of you, and you got to somehow stick it out. Sometimes you need to like build yourself up with delusions, and you need to tell yourself, we're good, we're great, and it's not us, but we've got this great guy on our team, even if they're just imagining him, and he'll help us. We're going to get through these trials and tribulations. We've got something to believe in. So that was probably helpful for them. I guess in a sense, as much as it's caused a lot of problems, and I wish people didn't really gravitate towards this as much as they did, I kind of feel for them in that moment of just like needing something to hang on to and having a hard time of it. What did I hate about this chapter? I hated that like this particular translation just like has this block of text from verse 9 all the way down to verse 40. I mean, break it up into paragraphs. I know that like that's a petty thing, but like just like put some breaks. Put some breaks in it. Why am I doing this? I hated how many times they said speaking to them out of the middle of the fire. Like, yeah, we get it. Who cares? So there was a little bit of petty stuff to hate, and I hate that people believe it. But I could say that for every single chapter. I hate that people believe this, internalize it, and make it about them. I think that's where the harm comes. It's a stupid thing to think that you're involved or that this God is real. But anyway, so thank you all for being here. We'll see you next time for the next chapter. And until then, why don't you subscribe? What's wrong with you? Like the video, comment on it, and we'll see you next time. Au revoir.